This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for The Rant with Barbara Rose Brooker. And Barbara, you've been talking about this special guest for weeks now.
Yes.
And I finally got out to Bradley's website today, and I am just totally amazed. The artwork is phenomenal. And of course, we all remember that yellow dress that Oprah wore.
Oh. That yellow dress. Will we ever forget it?
I'll have to tell you the story behind that dress. It's a big...
Barbara,
That's one of my questions.
Go ahead and introduce us to your guest.
Okay, listeners, we have an incredible star with us today, an artist, a real artist. You know, Picasso, I just want to say, made paintings we all love and know. And he also made shirts and shoes and ceramics and masks and had so many dimensions, like our guest today, Bradley Bayou, who is not only, he has designed gowns for very famous women all around the world, from Oprah to Beyonce to Anne Hathaway and many more, and also has designed interior designs for multi-million-dollar magnificent spaces and exterior spaces as well. And he also is the author, I have to say, of that fabulous book. It was Science of Sexy, about living with beauty. And I just want to say, everything that you do, every object, everything is living with beauty. So my first question is, before we get to the yellow dress, which is iconic, is I read that you started this incredible career that is ongoing with you made a vest. Can you tell us about when that happened, how old you were, and how it took off, making that one vest?
Yes, I can tell you everything about that vest because I have it framed now, that vest.
Oh, love to see it.
I was 32 years old. I had been a real estate developer in Texas, and I went through this transition because I always wanted to be an artist. So I got divorced, in a very sad process, especially I have kids. And I moved to Los Angeles, and I started painting again. And I started, doing all the things that I wanted to do that I couldn't do in business. So I was at a party, a birthday party for somebody, and then on the TV in the background was a show that Cindy Crawford used to have called House of Style on MTV. It was a big deal back then. And she was showing the latest trends. And the biggest trend, she said, was vests. So I looked at the vests, and they were showing all these vests. And I said to this friend of mine, I said, oh, those aren't very good. I could do much better than that. I mean, they just weren't very good. They were very simple. And so he made a, joke out of that. And I felt, like I'm going to prove myself. So I went home and I found an old vest and I painted it and I wore it to a black tie event the following week. And somebody there stopped me and said, where'd you get that? And I said, oh, I made it. And he goes, can you make more? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I know the buyer at a store in LA called Fred Siegel's.
Oh my God.
And he goes, if you have other ones. So I went to the Salvation Army and bought $5.50 vests, all my size. So if they didn't want them, I could always wear them. And he goes to Fred Siegel, all hand painted labels, because I didn't know how to make a label. And he came back from the meeting and he says, you're not going to believe it. They ordered all of them. And I said, oh no, now I have to make these things. So I said, before I do that, I got to go see my kids in Dallas. That's where I'm from. And Neiman Marcus is based in Dallas. So I did the same thing again, but I walked in with the vest and the buyer flipped out and bought all of them for their 7 top stores.
Oh my God.
And I said, oh my God, now I have all these orders. And I said, but I should go to New York because now I have 2 really big accounts. I can get into any store because I have Neiman Marcus and Fred Segal are my accounts all of a sudden.
The biggest
So
stores.
I go to New York, and Saks Fifth Avenue and Barney's orders the vest too.
Oh
So now I have an order for about 100 vests.
Oh my God, that
Now
one vest.
now the problem is, how do you make a vest? I don't know.
Oh,
So there was a tailor in my neighborhood named Hans the Tailor, and I went to him and I said, hey, here's 5, 6 vests. I said, can you copy these? He goes, yeah, but you need this many yards of this fabric. And I said, I went to the store, I got all the fabric, gave it to him, and he produced all the vests. The thing is, I didn't know how to make different sizes. So when I was at Neiman Marcus, they asked me, do they run SML? And I said, what does that mean?
Oh.
And he goes, small, medium, large, and you're in the business? I go, oh, yeah, that's right.
oh yeah.
And I said, no, they don't. They only come in one size because I didn't know how to make different sizes. I said, they're supposed to be worn really large.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. So Bradley, how did you transition then from the vest to the gowns, the couture?
A little bit of a story. I'll make it really fast. Well, because when the vest came out, they were all in Neiman Marcus windows.
Mm-hmm.
And New York Times has a story on me calling me the vest maker. And all of a sudden, after doing one set of vests, I'm the vest maker. So they had a color picture in the New York Times of me with all my vests, which is pretty crazy. And so I got a rep. So somebody said, well, you're selling to all these stores, I'll represent you. So Neiman Marcus, after they received their first order, 2 weeks later calls me and says, oh, we want to come see your spring collection. I went, now I have to start designing. So from that point, it turned into clothes. And I had my own shop at Bergdorf Men's Store. All of a sudden, I'm at Saks. I'm everywhere, right? Selling these vests to very famous people were buying the vest. And so I decided I had to push it forward. And then about a year after doing these, making mostly all men's clothes, Neiman Marcus calls me, the head of women, and said, we have a very strange proposition for you, but we hope you do it. And I said, what? We'll give you a lot of money, when it was at the time, to do women's clothes, whatever you want to do, just do them art form. I went, holy cow, what am I gonna do? I said, so what do I do? So I go to the fabric store and get patterns, and from that Vogue patterns, I know how to make clothes. And I go to New York and I find somebody, an Indian beater, and I do all my art pieces, but now they're on clothes. So I have all beaded and sent to me, and Neiman Marcus freaks out. They think they're unbelievable. So now Saks picks up the entire collection, and my second collection now is all in the windows on Fifth Avenue of Saks Fifth Avenue, the most prestigious windows in the world.
Yeah.
I had no idea about this. I had no idea what I was doing, and I go there at midnight in February, and it's freezing. They put them up for Valentine's Day. I'm standing there by myself on Fifth Avenue, 0 temperatures, looking at my name in all the windows, going, "Can anybody say? Am I hallucinating?"
It's an amazing story. I just want to interject to the listeners. I went to one of your shows at Neiman Marcus several years ago, and I've never seen more divine
Thank you.
works of art, these dresses. And I always said, if I become famous, I want to have a Bradley Bayou dress. I'm still waiting. But those dresses were works of art, just like the vest you
I
create.
translated, but then I decided, after doing that fad of beaded cartoon dresses would go out. So I did an entire black collection,
Yes.
all sculpted dresses, and my sales jumped 500%. So that's when I really started, and I was all over the world at that point, the clothing line, and it just really was a shock to me, and I had to grow with it and learn on the spot, and I did.
Picasso. So I want to say, how did the black dresses, which I love because I love black, when you designed a dress for Oprah for the Academy Awards,
Emmys.
What inspired you? Oh, the Emmys. What inspired you?
Okay, it's a funny
create
story.
that?
I hope I don't talk too much, but I'll make it fast.
No,
Again.
go
Oh,
ahead.
no, this is all about you.
Okay,
And
so
it's
I had
fascinating.
dressed Halle Berry and Selma Hayek and a bunch of people. I
Mhm.
came to LA back from New York, where I was for 5 years. I came back to LA, opened a little store. Gina Davis drove by, and I did her Academy Award dress that year. She picked me over all these other designers, and her stylist was furious because I was a nobody, and she knew that I wasn't going to give her a Chanel handbag or anything. Stylist.
Right.
So
Right.
there, all these girls were coming to me, and all of a sudden I'm dressing like the hottest stars in Hollywood. I really don't know exactly. Halle Berry, I think, was the second one, and they were all for premieres and openings, Academy Awards and Golden Globes, and then so I get a phone call from O magazine saying, Oprah really loves your clothes, and she's friends with Halle Berry, and Halle Berry, and so she says, can you design a dress for the cover of the December issue of O magazine? So I did, and I sent them the sketches, and then they called me up and say, oh, she changed her mind. So that's fine. And she goes, but she's going to the Academy Awards this year, and she wants to know if you can make that dress that you sketched for her. And I said, sure. Are you kidding? Yes. And so I did. I said, what are her measurements? They said, we can only give you her height and her bra size. I said, what? I said, how can I design a dress if I only have her height and her bra size? I mean, really? So I did something very clever. I watched the Oprah show every day, and some of the guests she had on were clients of mine, like Halle and
Oh, yeah.
girl. And I looked at her and go, okay, Halle is, so she's about, and so I figured out her size. And I designed this dress and I sent it to her, and it was a freebie, because Academy Awards, Oprah Winfrey, you just do those promotional things. So I'm telling all my friends, Oprah's wearing my dress to the, so she doesn't wear my dress to the Academy Awards. I'm completely shattered. I'm furious. So the following Monday, her office calls and says, oh, she's so sorry she didn't wear. I said, send the dress back. Oh, but she really wants to keep it. Send the dress back. I was that angry. Because that's a lot of work and money for somebody who's just kind of, struggling on here. And she goes, oh, I'll call you back. She calls me back in an hour and said, Oprah wants to buy the dress. And I charged her almost full price. I said, screw her. She tells me something. She's embarrassed me now. And so I forgot about it. I thought maybe she'll wear it to an opera or something one day, or an opening. About 3 months later, I get a phone call from Oprah herself. And I'm sitting there going, no, it's not. My assistant said, Oprah's on the telephone. I go, no, she's not. Come on. And it was her. And she says to me, I'm so sorry I didn't wear the dress at the Academy Awards, but I was just given, I'm being given the first humanitarian award at the Emmys, and I want to wear your dress. But she goes, I told them I had nothing to wear and I wasn't going to go. And I said, I remembered your dress. I said, can you come to Chicago and fit it on me so that I can wear it, because it fit pretty well, right? I was lucky. So I happened to be doing a trunk show at Neiman's in Chicago. At the same time, she wanted me to come for a fitting, so it worked out really well. They picked me up, they took me to her office, and I walk into the studios, and then they take me to her office. I meet her, and she has an ante room in front of her dressing room, and all these crates are there. Dior, Gucci, on and on, crates of clothes they wanted her to wear for this award. And she picked me, this little design.
Oh my God! And the yellow.
Hey, just let me finish it real quick, and then so then I walk into her. She says, "Okay, she's ready to see you." I walk into her dressing room, and she is literally in front of the window, like dancing, like she thinks she's a princess or something. It was breathtaking to me. It was like my clothes in Oprah's dressing room on the dress she's going to wear to the Emmys, and I knew at that point that was a big move for me. I mean, a big thing.
Oh.
Sure enough, she wore it. It was on the cover of every magazine in the world. And she was the first woman of a plus size to ever be picked as People magazine's 10 best dresses of the year.
It was amazing. It was that color.
Yeah.
That
Yep,
color.
yellow.
And the fabric and the way it moved was, everyone still talks about that dress.
It was a great dress.
And your black dresses are magnificent, magnificent. So Bradley, so you transition all during this time. Of course, you're collecting art and you're making art, and collecting, I must say, very important contemporary art. And you're building this collection. And then you move into interior designing.
Well, it went a little bit different than that, but I'll tell you how it
Okay.
went. So from there, Halston hired me
That's right.
to
That's
be the
right.
creative
Read
director and head designer. The Oprah dress helped a lot to get that job.
that. Yes.
So then it really kind of blew up because I turned Halston around and made it, put it back into every top store, because they wouldn't. Halston went through really bad years and no one would buy Halston or even look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned it around and I went through all this stuff, and I went through this process, and I realized that the owner of the company wasn't really going to promote the company and do the right thing. So I decided to leave. So I resigned. I sent my last collection with a resignation letter saying I'm moving on. And a week later, QVC had called me and had me come in, and my collection blew up. I became the fastest selling designer on QVC.
Right.
Very fast, and kind of held that position for years. And then, if you do that, after you do couture design, doing QVC clothes, it was great and everything, but it's not much of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't have that same excitement and runway shows. And a friend of mine called me up. He'd seen a lot of my houses and stuff, and he says, I just bought this house, and can you help me with it? So I said, sure, let me come look. And this was a perfect thing I always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I go over there and I see the house. I realize what I want to do to it. And I was going to basically do it for free. And my partner, Mark, he goes, no, you're not. You're not doing it for free. You always tell people stuff for free and you never get anything out of it. And I said, oh, but he's our friend. And so finally I made a contract and charged him for it. And all of a sudden, that's my first client. 6 months later, I had doing a penthouse in New York, Manhattan, and offices for a big corporation. And it just kept going and exploding. And now I'm doing houses from Southampton, building houses from Southampton to Malibu, and all between. Mm-hmm. And so it really kind of, again, like the fashion, it just came to me. I started something that just kind of took off.
It's an inner process. It is an inner process. It's a gift, and it's living inside beauty. I mean, I'm on your website looking at your pillows, Bradley. Those puffs of beauty, I call them. Those pillows, they should be in a museum. Just the pillows, they're just so gorgeous. So you're doing accessories as well. You're designing accessories.
And furniture.
And furniture.
Yeah. Which I really love. I mean, I'd rather just do furniture and not do houses. But,
the furniture.
Because it's sculpture in a sense. And I love doing it.
It is.
Really fun. And so all of this has come out, like in fashion, I end up doing jeans and shoes and handbags. It just comes out of what I'm doing. Right. Yeah. And the opportunity to design furniture. I realized I look for pillows all the time for clients' houses that I'm installing, and I couldn't find anything. So I had collected a lot of great fabrics from my fashion days, because I love fabrics. And so I started making them into pillows for my own houses. And then other people started buying. Oh, where'd you get that pillow? Like the vest. I made it, and all of a sudden they're buying my pillows too to put in their houses. So the pillows have been in Architectural Digest, some famous designers, and it's gone really far. So it's been really fun.
So this career, Bradley, started basically in your 30s, you said.
Well, it really started in my 20s I was painting the whole time. I started in my 20s I really wanted to be an artist. Started in my 20s in real estate development, where I got a chance to design office buildings, as an owner or working for a developer with architects, and the excitement. So I got to hire, Michael Graves and Architectonica, and met Richard, Geary, and a bunch of people, right, in the process, and really excited. So I learned a lot about building and structures and, technique. Through fashion, I learned all about fabrics and the way things lay. And so the combination of the real estate development and in fashion business kind of gave me this great solid background in interior design.
I love it.
Because I understood so much about things that other people wouldn't get the chance to work with, like, very expensive fabrics and the way they lay and fall and how you drape them and just colors and matching and all that kind of stuff, that I had an advantage over other people in the sense that I understand color really well and texture. So it's kind of led me here.
It's a process, isn't it?
So it really started in my 20s.
Yeah.
And
Probably
art.
before, probably even
I started
before.
painting when I was 12. So
Yeah. So it is an inner process. It's a gift. It's a calling, and you developed it in so many ways. I also want to ask you how the pandemic has this informed.
It's Frank Geary. I'm sorry, I said Richard Geary. Where was that coming? Richard Gere. Richard, he would kill me. Richard, no, it's not Richard. Okay, go ahead. How does it COVID?
Well, the pandemic has that. I know you're making the most exquisite masks, also works of art, and you're selling them for hundreds of dollars and donating the money to our health
responders. Yeah,
which is amazing. So during the pandemic, how has this affected your designing, because you're working or has it at all, because you are working at home?
Yeah, it really has, though, because all of a sudden your clients don't want you coming to their house, and you kept stop construction because they don't want people in their house, and they don't want meetings, and all of a sudden my business drops off because projects I had started or were about to start, you had to cut it off completely. And some really great projects, so it was really frustrating at first. So I was like going, okay, now what do I do? So I had this great studio, where I had my offices.
Mm-hmm.
And I first got this idea to do the painted mask to help out. And also it was just an idea I had that it kind of got me back into art, painting in a sense. And I said, I'd love to paint. And so I'll paint and do it for a reason, for charity. And I did that. And that has led now to about 6 months ago, starting to paint again.
Oh, good.
Now I'm painting a lot, like 10 hours a day.
Oh, large?
It's large, really large. And it's come full circle because that's how I started. That's all I ever wanted to be, was an artist. So the pandemic has given me the opportunity to have the space and the time to do what I always really wanted to do.
Isn't that amazing?
Full circle.
That's full circle in the pandemic. So many people are finding their way, their creativity, but you were able to expand it. You already had it. But in the painting, for example, so because you collect so many of these artists that we all know about, or are you painting, so you're painting very large canvases?
I do, but I'll tell you what I'm painting. So I took this, I started painting again, and I had to relearn. I haven't really painted in 30 years.
And what medium are you using?
I'm doing all mixed medium, but acrylic, basically, because I like fast drying, and that's really the reason, and I don't like the smell of oil.
Right.
And it takes forever to dry, and I'm a very fast thinker in a sense. I really want instantaneous growth painting, especially relearning again. So I've been doing it for a few months, and we decided to get out of here, a car trip to Zion National Park and Sedona, Arizona, and Sequoia, and beautiful scenes. And I've always painted people. That's what I do, portraits and stuff. So all of a sudden I came back and I started painting trees.
Oh.
So now I'm doing trees, but trees to me have now become a real connection with me to nature, because nature's the greatest artist. And it's kind of my way of representing that part of thing. And it's also, I see trees as symbolic of everything, what's going on. So now I'm doing trees, and they represent the 7 deadly sins. So if you look at trees and the distortions and how they gluttony and, all these lust and all these different things, you can look at trees that way. And to me, they connect me now to connecting me to humankind and nature kind. Is
And,
the combination is trees that symbolize, basic human instinct.
and to literature and to everything,
Every,
Donovan. I mean, everything, the trees, are they abstract? Like say
well,
Joan Mitchell does those
they're
landscapes.
representational, but
Mhm.
in ways. So I'm not going to say impressionistic because they're more Fauvist, if you know what that, or
Yes,
beastly.
yes. And so the colors.
I use the words in the paintings that I want them to, represent. So in other words, I did a painting called God Created Man, except man it's all backwards, written backwards. And it's two trees like the Michelangelo Sistine Chapel with God and, man touching, but they're
Oh,
trees.
beautiful.
So it becomes very symbolic of humankind because trees will be here a lot longer than we are.
Absolutely.
But they represent, so we come along, humans, and we come along and we think, in certain cases today when people don't care about, the ecosystem and all that stuff, to me, it's like saying, we were here first and all you're doing is imitating us.
That's true.
So, and you're doing it badly. And on top of it, you're destroying us. So for me, it's become a real kind of drive to represent nature. I've done mountains but things that are solid that, can you imagine a designer actually building a mountain? You can't.
Yes.
You look at a tree, no matter what tree it is, it's always perfect, but how is that? How does it always have balance? How is it? Yet it's many tiny particles. All humans do is try to copy it.
What about your color palette with the
Color palette is Fauvist. They call it beast
Oh,
colors.
you do all those
So
colors.
they're really
Yeah.
intense.
How
color.
beautiful.
Really
Can you see
intense
them?
and dynamic. So the trees are really in motion almost.
Beautiful. Will we be able to, are you going to have a show?
I will. I'm already talking to galleries. I want to wait for another probably year, which will be a good timing.
Yeah.
And to see, I'm working out stuff in my head and technique. I'm trying all these new techniques. I'm using this paint they call the blackest black paint. Anish Kapoor sort of had the corner in it, and now other people can get it. So it's so black and deep that it almost like you're falling into the painting.
Really? I've never heard of
A black
that.
circle on the floor, it looks like you have a hole in your floor because it absorbs 98% of light. So there's nothing but blackness. And I'm using the most silver paint that they make. That's almost mirror reflected paint. It looks like foil. And I do beads that they use on signs on highways and stuff like that.
Well, interesting.
It's been a lot of fun. I want to start projections and all these different things.
It sounds very unique and original, very original and timely. So timely right now. So my next question is, so the world, how I think you should design our planet. What is our world going to look like
Good.
in the next few years? It's not going to look like now. So do you think that design,
as people know, I mean, if mankind just died all of a sudden, nature would take over everything and basically push us underground.
the trees, oh.
Trees, the vines. There's a site that shows you what it would look like in 20 years if man left. They show real existing buildings, what would happen, how the vines would start to crumble the buildings. And basically it would all go back to nature again because nature is much more powerful than us. So in a dream world, we'd have to get rid of people, or at least the people that just don't care.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. And it's really sad that we've taken this beautiful place and destroy it over greed and money. But if you could get rid of those people and have nature-loving people and just let the world kind of take over and create, again, a clean air. The air in LA is so bad right now that my grandson cannot go out because he has asthma. Because he goes to 170 on the scale, which is good, 30, 170 is like 5 times worse than the air should be in LA. So I have real issue with that stuff.
San Francisco too, with the fires. I can't breathe. It's horrible. So when you say you're painting trees and and you're living in this, beauty and designing a world through your art. That's how I see it. You're designing a world through your art, and that is infinite, infinite. So I hope maybe all the people will disappear and we'll just have this beautiful interior world.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get rid of the maniac.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is for people to realize, what nature is doing for us.
Oh my God, so much, everything.
My sister-in-law is a photographer, and she composts everything. And I live in a condo, I can't, but I do compost what I can. And when I use that compost in my plants, the difference, I mean, they just come to life. I wish I was a painter, because I would paint them. I'll have to invite you here to paint my plants.
Yeah.
But I think your paintings are going to get people to realize
I do too.
there's so much more.
Art documents life. Art documents life. To me, it's the only thing that really, really has life.
Right, I agree.
And so your vision now is just constantly going. I can hear it.
Yeah, it is. It's been fortunate for me, in a sense, because all of this has come out of COVID, and you had asked that earlier, how it changed your life. It's made my life better in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, I have grandkids that can't go to school, and my daughter's like nuts, and it's a tough thing for everybody. Financially, there's a lot of people on the street living. It's hard. But so it's tough. So I feel a little guilty saying that my life, it's not better, but I'm coping by being able to be creative. And it really has it's almost like art therapy. It's made a huge difference in me. And also made me stop all of a sudden and quit thinking about things that relate to business or whatever, and stop and open my eyes to what's really important.
Just the process and the creativity and living in it, because it is going to explode into nothing but beauty. So I think everybody, we need to live in a Bradley Bayou planet, inside this beauty with the trees. I mean, I'm in the heart of the city, and I stare at the trees across the street during the day just to feel revived somehow. But to see your art, I can't wait to see the paintings. And I really hope that you will have a retrospective. When I say retrospective,
of all the things,
talking of everything you've done, not what you're doing.
One day, and actually a friend of mine who's an art lover and stuff said to me, I'd like to have a show with your dresses and your pillows and your pictures of interiors and your paintings to show how they all relate to each other. And
exactly.
I would love that.
Like Yves Saint Laurent did it at the Legion of Honor when all the dresses were there, and then he had a lot of other things he had designed. It was his world, a little bit of his world there.
Yeah,
I can see that's going to happen to you, Bradley. I'm happy for you. I hear the energy, and I hear the creativity. And in this world and on this planet right now, with the maniac this mentally ill imbecile who's running our country and his base, creativity and art truly, to me, are everything. And it's such an honor having you. I really, don't you wish you could go in there in his Zoom right now? Everybody, look at that. That's so gorgeous. Please go on Bradley Bayou.
It's that thing that's an elevator.
Oh, it's an elevator?
Okay.
It's a pneumatic tube.
Yeah.
Like a bank. It works by.
I can't.
Isn't that crazy?
I love it. I love that. Oh, that, and just the arcs and the colors and just the whole thing. Well, sometime could we do a podcast with a tour?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Oh, yes, the tour of your masks and your pillows and your art.
Sure.
And yes, that would, okay. So listeners, I know you're all salivating. we can to have a tour of Bradley Bayou's wonderful, wonderful art, and it's just it's an honor really
Thank
to
you.
to feel this and see this. And go to www.bradleybayou, BAYOU.com, and you can see some of it. You can see some of it there. And that's the way they can contact you, because there's contact information on there. And I'll just give one little plug for myself. The Audible of my latest novel was just released by Simon Schuster. Love Sometimes. So that's available on Amazon and so forth, the Audible.
Wow.
And yeah, and everybody stay safe and keep creating, and look at those trees. I mean, those trees, anybody who cuts a tree or pulls a leaf should go to prison for life.
Everybody be in prison.
I know. Thank you, Bradley.
Right,
and
thank you.
Karen.
Well, thank you, Bradley. And we hope everybody will also go out to agemarch.org,
Oh, yeah.
because Age March is going to be a virtual march in
Yes.
March.
In March, and it's going to be sponsored by Revitalash L'Oreal, and it's the first virtual march in history. And my message is to celebrate age pride for all ages, races, genders, sexual orientations, so we can all live and work together and not be defined by age.
Yes.
That's been my dream.
So be it. No more ageism. I agree.
No more ageism. So Bradley, we're going to want you on that show in March.
Well, okay.
Agemarch.org, join.
And go to, if you see my Instagram, go to Bradley Bayou Design.
Bradley,
It's very
Bradley
simple.
Bayou.
They can see projects I'm doing now and posts that I don't have on my website.
We'll make sure we put that in the description of today's show. So
Yes,
it was
yes.
wonderful meeting you.
Guys,
And, I hope I can get out to LA in the near future.
I-
And,
The retrospective, yes.
see what-
yes, the retrospective.
Ab-
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Safe.